for our student athletes, and it's all kind of combined in one area and in a location where most of our student athletes end their day here on the western side of campus. So that particular project and that particular outcome for 17-18 really is a big point of pride.
Again, a big topic in collegiate athletics has been the sale of alcohol in stadiums. How much have you discussed that topic among your colleagues, and do you have a position on that?
You know, I think it's as unique as a snowflake at each individual institution. I don't foresee that as being a huge. It hasn't been a huge topic here because we really don't look at that as something moving forward inside Memorial Stadium that is on our list of things to get done. There's a different atmosphere at our games. Our people in the parking lot have a good time. There's no question about that, and I'm sure many of you have joined them on occasion. But inside the stadium, I think it's a little different.
Yeah, and speaking about another vice situation, this recent Supreme Court ruling about gambling. I know colleges, everybody's looking for new revenue streams. Have you had any talks with anybody about, someday this is a way we might monetize this to help all colleges, not specifically Clemson, but is it something that's on the radar for ADs and administrators to think about?
Well, again, I think it has a lot to do with your zip code.
Yeah.
And here in the state of South Carolina, any change in the gambling laws has to come from the state legislature and the state government. So I'm not sure that that's high on their priority list. So when it starts to get high on their priority list, then we will be able to chime in and talk about it. I think that gambling has been going on sports for an awful long time. Some legal, some illegal. I think as more and more states, maybe states around us, states that we play in, because of the breadth of the Atlantic Coast Conference, it'll be important for us to continue to educate our student athletes and ramp up our compliance efforts, to talk about gambling. But I think at this point in time, we can do that within the confines of our current compliance area. Whether we need to expend more resources on that in coming years is really an open question. But as it relates to resources coming back, that's going to be a state-by-state process. And South Carolina has not at this point in time, the government of the state has not at this time come out talking about this is something that's high on their radar screen.
Now that you're getting a little bit closer to breaking ground on softball, what happens with Jervey Meadows? Assuming the stadium goes right there in the parking lot, does Jervey Meadows stay the same? Does it still football practice fields, motorhome parking, or have you gotten that far? Will it be
we have
parking?
No, I mean it will be for football game day Saturdays. It will be the same. I mean it'll be a couple hundred spots lighter because of the footprint of the stadium. But we're going to, especially with the motorhomes that are so important to, the atmosphere of our whole stadium and surround it. We want that to continue to be as positive an experience for those folks as we can. So no major changes there. There'll just be a softball stadium kind of tucked behind the Chapman grandstands, and they'll be able to see that. And we'll utilize as much space around there as we can.
Yeah, how many more stadium suites do you think you could sell right now if you had?
That's a great question, Larry. I think the waiting list is probably in the teens. That IPTE has, but being on a waiting list and executing the agreement sometimes are two different things. A lot of it would have to do with what amenities are associated with that, where is it in the stadium, how does it look, and all those ideas before someone would make the commitment to buy a suite or a club seat for that matter, any type of premium amenity. So I think that's all part of the due diligence process of looking to see whether those kind of things inside the stadium are next on the agenda.
You mentioned how much you value the student-athlete experience. How do you from an administration standpoint, make sure that you're empowering them to hear their voices and safeguard against things that are kind of happening across the country, like at Michigan State? I know you have some things in place.
Well, we do. We want to make sure that our student athletes feel empowered to give feedback to their coaches, to their sport administrators through the Student Athlete Advisory Council. The doors of all of our administrators are open for any concerns that student athletes have. We also want to make sure that the mental health opportunities that we give to our student athletes are at a very high level, because a lot of those questions can be answered if they feel comfortable with people being around that they can go to and they can have a conversation with. And then those individuals, pending privacy issues, move forward and bring that up the chain so that we don't have circumstances like have happened at some institutions. I feel for all those places because, I know they had processes in place. I know they had, really good people. Sometimes there's no process for a bad actor, and no safeguard for a bad actor. So, it's really just, and one thing that we emphasize with our training staff, our strength and conditioning staff, and all of our administrators is to make sure to keep your ears open. Listen to those folks that you serve. And make sure that if something is moving in a non-positive direction, that we start to marshal some services and get help.
Dan, piggybacking on Shannon's question, when you hear about maybe a situation at Baylor or Michigan State or whatever, do you kind of just say, okay, we need to take an audit of how we're doing here? Or do you say, I trust the people who I've worked with, I know they're doing the right things, or is it a combination of the both?
I guess it was Ronald Reagan who said, "Trust but verify."
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that we've just completed. We've just completed an internal review, or an external group came in and reviewed our practices in sports medicine. And that's one of the things that we will work through this summer in taking some of the suggestions that they had put into that report and make sure that we're doing everything that we can. We bring external folks in to talk about safe space for not only our student athletes but for our employees. We bring external folks in from a communication perspective. We have a great team here, and we have resources from the institution, but we're kind of nestled up here in the northwestern part of South Carolina, and we would be foolish to think that some of the things that happen around the country couldn't happen here. So we're constantly looking at external folks to come in, give us their thought processes. Let's take the pieces that we feel like are important for us and put them into place.
Can you say what some of the recommendations were from that?
We haven't kind of gone through everything that with all the parties yet. So I will tell you that we didn't fail the external review by a long shot. We have a really good sports medicine program, and I think it would be fair to say that the feedback that we got were tweaks and things to allow us to do things better rather than raising up a number of red flags.
Is this mental health services / area, is that something that's relatively new, or is this something that's been in place for?
We've had it in place for probably about 5 years now, but it's grown. And it's grown because the need has grown. 5 years ago, maybe there were a few student athletes who would take advantage of it, maybe more on the performance end of things. But now it's kind of lumped together between mental health and your well-being as a student and an athlete, as well as any performance issues that you may want to have mental health or performance professionals help you with.
Last year there was a lot of angst concerning students in the Hill, and you were blamed even though student government put the process in place. Is any of that going to change this year, or are there is anything taking place to make sure that the students get to the Hill? Or what's the latest, I guess?
You know, I was meeting with the Board of Trustees, you know, and I got done with my little dog and pony show, and I asked any questions, and they said, yes, fill the hill. So when your bosses tell you to fill the hill, that's kind of what is high on your priority list. Mason Foley, the new student body president, has been fantastic. He and his team have worked with Graham a lot over the spring semester, and we're looking at some different entry options, some other types of processes to make sure that we get the tickets in the hands of the students that desire them. And to do that, that probably indicates a process change that we're close to having done and approved by the students and everyone on campus. So I think that as the students roll in August, they'll have some different processes to work through, and I think there'll be ones that will help solve that issue and answer that question.
Is it still your inclination to keep the student tickets free, or maybe to make sure that the hill is filled, make students pay for it to ensure that they show up like other schools do?
Yeah, I think there's some unique Clemson pieces here, and having the tickets free are an important part of that.
Anything else? Everybody good?